And now, Move the Sticks with Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ Buck with you. Buck, we got a football game, man. We had a football game last night. How cool was that?
It was really cool. I feel bad for you, though, because I was in studio last night. I know I didn't walk out and probably get home closer to 10 o'clock my time, which meant you were in Canton, Ohio, and having to take the starter. I would say I was probably waking up as you were walking in.
Yeah, because that's probably about time's up, right? I think I pulled into the house just a little bit before 6. It's the flight, but then it's landing in LAX and having to drive back down to San Diego that gets you. But like, this is where our scouting training comes in, that you never think about when you have a drive. You never think about the full distance. You find a place in the middle, put in your GPS for that place, stop, get some coffee, and then you get back in your car, put it in GPS and go home. It's like, just, they say like runners, when you're out running on the road, like you never think about, okay, I got this much further to get to the next mile. You go, oh, there's a sign. I see that sign. I'm just going to get to that sign. And when you get to that sign, then you see the next sign, and then you get to that sign. That's kind of what you're doing when you're traveling in the middle of the night.
Yeah, no, that's a tough one. I don't envy you, but at least you got a chance to see a good game from your vantage point. The Chargers they were solid, man. They were solid from the jump. Mm-hmm. And I know it's funny because the Hall of Fame game is the extra game that some teams want, because you have an opportunity to give an extended look to the young players, the players that are on the fringes, before you really have to get into the evaluation. And because we've gone down to a 3-game preseason as opposed to a 4-game, that's very, very valuable. So I just have to ask you, man, thoughts initially just on the Chargers, the game itself.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm always saying preseason is a liar. You can get in trouble when you try and make declarations based off the preseason. Everyone knows that. If you have any common sense, you know that this has been proven over the years. But I will say this. I got actually a text from my son, who's, grown up as a Charger fan. And he said, it's interesting, like a Jim Harbaugh coach team, week 1 of the preseason, they protected the football. Mm-hmm. There weren't a lot of penalties on the Chargers. On the Lions on the other side of things, a bunch of turnovers, a bunch of penalties. It wasn't very clean at all. And it was like, okay, I think you can take something from that. I think you can take that, these guys had to get into camp early. And the Chargers, look like they're a team that, even with they've got more depth, first of all. That's obvious with the guys they rolled out there. They're, especially the defensive line. They've got some size and some depth. Some rookies played well. Keandre Lambert-Smith made some big plays at receiver. He's going to be a factor for them. Trey Harris is going to be a good player. You saw Marion Hampton. So a lot of good young players. But to me, it was just that year 2 of the culture kind of setting in of Jim Harbaugh, tough, smart. It just kind of looked like a Jim Harbaugh team out there.
It's DJ, and I know it's the preseason and the games don't count, but they certainly matter. And they matter in terms of, as you're looking at your team, do you see your team embracing style of play? Are they in line with the things that are being talked about and discussed frequently in meetings, on the field, and even in press conferences? When Jim Harbaugh talks about, we want our team to play a certain way, does the team play that way when you have an opportunity to see him? And for me, it was like going back in the Wayback Machine. For as long as I've been on the West Coast and I've seen Jim Harbaugh teams, I was like, yeah, this is the same team I saw at USD, at Stanford, San Francisco, Michigan, and now with the Chargers. They're going to run the football. They're going to have a great complementary play-action package that is very easy for the quarterback-friendly offense. Defensively, they're not going to give up big plays. They're going to be physical, and they're going to make you drive the length of the field. And when you look at that, regardless of whether it's preseason, regular season, postseason, this is a formula and a blueprint that leads to success. And the way that they dominated the Detroit Lions, I don't care what anyone says about the preseason, no one wants their team to get whipped like that.
Yeah.
And the way that the Chargers do that, to me, this is like, and look, you're in it, so if they took it like with more seriousness than others. But to me, they put the ball out there, and it was very clear from the jump, the Chargers were intent on flexing their muscles against the Detroit Lions, because it still is a bit of a measuring stick.
Yeah, and I know, look, they're both playing backups, but it was interesting from the standpoint that Chargers had the number 1 scoring defense last year. The Lions, I believe, were the number 1 scoring offense last year. I think the Chargers' red zone defense was tops in the league, or top 3. The Lions were top 3 in red zone offense. Like, it was strength versus strength. And even when you're not playing with your ones, I mean, they look like at least in this game, they look like a deeper, more talented team outside the starters. Now, there's a play in that game where I see, the right tackle for the Lions pulling outside and a little corner from the Chargers able to make him miss. I'm like, okay, now I can envision that's Penei Sewell. The star players make a difference when they're not playing in these games, and the Lions definitely have the star players, as do the Chargers. So I don't think there's any like major declarations you can make other than I think that Jim Harbaugh's imprint on this team and the identity of this team is there. And I think from the Lions, again, not making too big a deal of it, but there's a lot of coaching changes, man. They lost a lot. And I'm sure if you're a new defensive coordinator, new offensive coordinator, you probably want to get out there and have a little bit better showing than that, even though it's not your main guys.
Because what it does, DJ, it creates a sense of panic. Like, no one will say this, but anytime you have newness at those leadership positions, those leadership roles, you want all the things that we talked about throughout the spring and summer. We want to see those X's and O's come to life. And whether it's Hendon Hooker, Kyle Allen, whoever's directing the offense, this is a team in a city that has gotten used to the fireworks that preceded the arrival of John Morton. Man, for them to get stymied and really struggle the way that they struggled on offense, it puts more pressure on the play caller from when they have that preseason game and they may play the starters. They better show up because, man, the rumblings will start quickly if they don't have the same kind of flair and pizzazz that they've had the last few years.
Yeah, no, it's see how they get out the gate and get started. I think will have a big impact on what that conversation is. I want to ask you this question because one of my favorite guys on the Chargers, and I've known him for a long time, going back to when he was a prospect, but Tony Jefferson is someone who has got a great story. He's with the Ravens, and then his career is basically, career's over. I'm going to go into scouting. So he scouts for a year. And then Joe Ortiz gets with the Chargers. He decides last year, I'm going to make another run at it. He was kind of helping the Chargers, so he's going to come make a run at it. He goes into preseason, Buck. I mean, it was not a lock he was going to make the team. And the last preseason game, I think he had one or two interceptions. He forced a fumble. He made all these plays as a vet, as a guy who was several, 7, 8 years into the league, but literally fought his way onto the team. So now they've got, again, a really good roster. He's coming back again. He's going to have to compete to make the team. He goes out last night. He sets a little trap. It was like the Ed Reed pick that Belichick talks about, where did you see that? Where they're in too high. He floats to the middle and then just
right back
sprints to the pylon. And as soon as Kyle Allen saw the shift like this, he locked in and the ball was gone and Tony went and got it. And I was sitting there thinking, it reminded me, first of all, two things. Number one, we're going through the Hall of Fame before the game. We got there early. The buses get there early. The Chargers can parade all the players through there. And, Tony's not even in there. He's walking into the room. Well, we're walking kind of through the exhibits, and you see all the the 1920s and stuff like that, and you see the the leather helmets and all that stuff, and all the young DBs hey, T. Jeff, is this your high school uniform? Is this what you're using in high school? But kind of the value. So that's what I want to ask you, the value of having some of these guys who aren't just they don't just have experience in the league, but literally still as a vet fighting like crazy to make the team, and what kind of example that sets. Did you know anybody? Were you with anybody like that? And then what is the value there?
There were always vets that are kind of trying to extend their career and do it. But I'm going to say this, DJ, from my own personal experience, being a bubble guy, later, year 5, year 6, and you're in there in the Hall of Fame game. Some of your buddies are not dressed out, but here you are, the vet that has to suit it up. To me, I'm going to say this speaks volumes to the football character that Tony Jefferson has, because it would be hard for some guys to humble themselves enough to treat that game like a regular season game when it comes to the preparation, the focus, the intensity. And listening to him talk to Steve Weiss after the game, 12 years into it, still talking about,
he's got 12.
Talking about, it's my job to set the example for the young guys and to come and play hard and to do all this other stuff that you have to do. And I remember working him out when he was coming out, or whatever, undrafted player, to make it the way that he's make it. I think having those kind of guys in the locker room in whatever capacity, whether it's on the active roster, whether it's on the practice squad, what Tony Jefferson can be is an extension of the coaching staff, an extension, or what I call the culture standard bearer, to make sure that the young guys understand what's going on. And the fact that he still can make a play every now and then, that enables him to have the ear of the young players. Because it's one thing to have the old man that never makes a play barking. It's another thing when you see a player that can still play and be like, oh, okay. So when Tony says, hey, man, you need to be right here when we line up in this coverage, and then you see him make a play, the instant credibility. I think it makes him great in whatever capacity they keep him. Because I think they're going to keep him somewhere, DJ.
Yeah.
Like in some capacity, he's going to be around.
Yeah.
He's going to be around. And I think that just validates everything. So now when he speaks with a little more that the guys can get. I think it's invaluable. And we've talked about how the practice squad can be so valuable to have these vets in now. Why wouldn't you populate your practice squad with like 4 or 5 guys that can kind of be extension of the coaching staff?
Yeah, no, it's he's an impressive guy, and it's easy to root for him. A guy who just fought for everything that he's got and wasn't handed anything. And I think there's a lot of guys like that out there. I got a lot of respect for that group of players. Real quick, Buck, just I haven't had a chance to talk to you about it. I saw it live in person. I thought Tre Lance looked good, man. And I think to me, like Jim Harbaugh, one of the superpowers of Jim Harbaugh is he instills confidence and belief. And I think more, everybody say Tre Lance needs to play. He hasn't played a lot. I mean, yes, he needs to get experience. He needs to play, and he'll get a chance to do that here in the preseason. But Buck, I also think he needs to have somebody remind him, hey, man, you're good. Like, you're good. You can play.
I think the best thing that Jim Harbaugh does whenever he takes on these reclamation projects is he makes them feel like they felt when they were at their best at whatever level, college, early in the pros or whatever. I saw him do the same thing that he always does, the pads and boom, boom. And there was a joy that Tre Lance played with that I hadn't seen since North Dakota State days. There was a smile. There was an ease of nature that I love. Secondly, man, people say a lot about Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh and the way they run their offense or whatever, but I know this. They made it very easy for Tre Lance to have instant success right away. Bootlegs early, half rolls late. I'm like, how many times in life can we see them score a touchdown on this play? Yeah. Like tailback in the flat, tied into the corner, bang. Yeah. But that throw, that throws much harder than people will give it credit, because Will Driscoll had to catch that over somebody, and Tre Lance didn't blow the layup. DJ, I saw what we always talk about when it's a scout. When a quarterback has been drafted early, man, they get every opportunity to exhaust that option on whether they can play. And the guy that I saw last night is well worth taking the time to see if you can squeeze a little bit out of Tre Lance to maybe get a player that can be a very valuable backup for a long time, or someone who can jump in a pinch and do it. And then when they told this last night, they said Tre Lance is younger than Michael Penix and some of the other guys.
I know. Is that crazy, man?
But it talked about how quickly sometimes people give up on others. And you're like, hey, man, he hasn't even played. He's a baby.
He's a baby.
Yeah, no, it's a great job. He looked so comfortable and all that stuff. And I was just like, man, it's just a byproduct of them run-heavy system. But the complementary game that goes with it is quarterback friendly.
I'm telling you, we did see a lot of him, but I know it was 3 colleges. I know he never lived up to the expectations, but I'm telling you, Buck, when you go down there on the field and watch DJU warm up and throw, I saw him as you did in high school. I saw him as a sophomore in high school, and I was as physically imposing a high school quarterback as I've ever seen. There's still talent in there. I know 3 colleges can tell you it hasn't worked out the way that we thought it would, and we bought into it. Don't buy into it. I'm sitting here telling you, you can't. He's going to get opportunities, man. You can't quit on that talent. There's talent in there.
So here's the advantage that I think Jim Harbaugh has over some guys, because he spent so much time in college. He's unafraid of the developmental process. His patience, particularly when it comes to quarterback, he has a longer wick than some guys have when it comes to that developmental candle. Hey, we'll take our time. We'll process it, whatever. And then when you start looking, I think Jim Harbaugh has a type. I think he likes the big, strong, athletic type. I believe that he sees himself in some of those guys, and he feels like, oh, I got a recipe and a blueprint that works. And look, if you go back and Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick and the guys that he has dealt with, he understands how to maximize that position. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see DJU make his way on the practice squad, spend a lot of time working on the mechanics, building up his confidence to give himself a shot to make the roster next year. I just think the Chargers and Harbaugh he has a clear vision for what he wants at the position, and he's undeterred by whatever happened before you got to us.
Yeah.
We'll figure that out.
Yeah, no doubt. I think he's got a chance there. Nico Reed, undrafted corner at Oregon, had a pick and has made plays all throughout training camp. I talked about Lambert Smith's done a nice job. There's some good stories there, some good young players. And for those asking, hey, what about the Lions? The Lions didn't play good. I would love to sit here and tell you, a list of guys. I know, and talking to people down there on the field before the game in their organization, there is a lot of excitement about Aiden Hutchinson, and they think he's going to light the world on fire. So that's some positive news there. And I know, I talked to Brad Holmes for a minute down there. He likes the young receivers. Tesla's is one of those guys.
He had a nice game. He had a nice game early. Like he got in the mix. Saw him make some nice catches and those things. But the quarterback play wasn't great, and then they didn't have many opportunities. They didn't really throw it a lot, so you didn't really get a chance to see what they could do. Final thing about the Chargers. Thumbs up on the blue britches. I'm okay.
Those are sweet, aren't they? Sweet, man.
Yeah, blue britches, white jersey, white helmet.
I like that combo, man.
I like that. Not a big fan of the yellow, but right now the combo that I saw last night, I get at a double.
Yeah, the yellow on yellow, I was going to take some getting used to, but the navies, the throwback navies that they busted out over the summer, those are sweet. And then those pants, man. Those powder blue pants are pretty legit.
Because that's new. They've never done powder blue pants, right?
Those pants are new.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Okay, I wanted to make sure because I was like, man, that's a nice combination. Right
it's very nice. They look, the Chargers social media and uniforms. They've checked those boxes every year, man. I just got to get the team to finish it off here in the postseason. All right, it's time for Hot or Not, brought to you by Wasabi Hot Cloud Storage. Hot, Buck. The temperature's hot in most of the country, and man, I think. Contract negotiations or lack thereof are a little hot with Terry McLaurin and with Micah Parsons.
Yeah, like so weird, both of these situations. I think let's talk about Micah first because the name is so big. The Micah situation is so weird to me. He is set to play on the 5th year of his deal, the 5th year option. It'll be like $24 million. Obviously, you look at the pass rusher market, it is now escalated to it's $40 million.
Yeah.
Micah Parsons has 52.5 sacks in 63 games. He is a guy who is a big play machine. He makes plays all over the field. And without question, he is their best defensive player, maybe their best player on the team. Don't really understand why this has been such a long, drawn out, contentious negotiation. But here we are. And I just feel like for the Cowboys, like I know that this is the way they do business, but it just doesn't make you feel good, I would think, as a player that you have to haggle like guys are having to haggle to get their money from the Cowboys. And maybe it's a situation where the Cowboys are like, hey, man, we're going to put them on the franchise tag situation. But it's just a weird deal to be going through this in training camp when you need him to be ready to play if they're going to have any chance of competing and closing the gap on the Eagles.
So I was talking to an agent about this thing, and he brought up an interesting point, which is, these players – they all talk. It's a very close-knit community. And like he was using an example of Howie. Mm-hmm. Like the Eagles players that walk through those halls, they will die for Howie Roseman. They love him. I mean, Howie takes care of them. They pay him early in most cases, but they always take care of him. And hey, you're a little bit beat up during the season. I'm going to go ahead and fight through it. I mean, I'm fighting for my team, for my brothers, for the organization. Like there's just a belief and a gratitude that seeps in there when they're taken care of. And other people will say, no, it's your job as a negotiator to get them for as cheap as humanly possible so we can maximize the roster. I know obviously as an agent, so they're gonna believe the opposite of that. But I think I agree with them. I think there is something to the fact of like, hey, I'm not saying it's for like I'm not gonna get held hostage by just a run of the mill average starter. But when you've got your 3 to 5 elite players on just about every roster, like those guys, I'm okay overpaying a little bit. First of all, the market's going to run away anyways. And in a year from now, it's not even going to look like an overpay. And in the meantime, you've got a happy camper on your hands.
Yeah, I just don't understand why you wouldn't want the player to be happy and ready to go. We talk about this being a team sport, relationships, and if the relationship deteriorates between the player and management, and even the coaching staff, it just makes it hard that he's going to give you everything. And as you talked about the Eagles and some of the other teams that are really on the forefront, they would rather pay them early than late. The buyback that they get from the players, the buy-in in terms of like, hey, man, I'll do anything for my team because my team stands 10 toes down for me. You don't get that from the Cowboys. And I know the brand is the brand, and I know in business some people feel like they always need to make a deal, but this is a relationship business. And when we have hurt feelings or whatever, like you can throw money at it, but it doesn't change the feeling. People remember how you made them feel more so than how much you pay them. And for
Yeah.
Micah Parsons to go through this, for someone who we know Micah to be a guy that wears his emotions on his sleeve, DJ, I feel like this long extended thing has done more harm than good when it comes to their relationship.
Yeah, and it always feels like the Cowboys, they end up doing it, and usually they end up kind of doing the deal that the player likes and wants, and they cross that bridge, but it's like they make it exhausting. It's like, come on, man, just get it done. I don't get that one. How about with Terry? It's funny. I talked to AP the other day, and I was just I was thinking about him because he's a San Francisco Giants baseball fan, and the team stinks. And so I was calling to bust his chops on them being a seller as my Padres are surging. We had a great trade deadline, by the way, as we always do. But I was calling.
You don't have a minor league system anymore. You don't have any minor league.
This every year. Every year. You guys know what we're going to do next year? We're going to trade 10 more of them next year and go get more guys.
The players are all gone.
That's all he does is scout and replenish the system. He's a machine. He does it every year. I mean, like I go back, Blake Snell, Joe Musgrove, Juan Soto, like he trades for these star players every year. Oh, how many prospects? No, he'll go find more. He goes, just reshuffle them. But anyways, I call AP to bust his chops on that. And then I was just curious. I was thinking about Jaden Daniels. So we talked about that. I didn't even think to ask him about Terry McLaurin. I didn't even talk about it. But on a side note, if you want some positive news, if you're a Washington Commanders fan, this has kind of gotten murky here. He was telling me, I'm like, how does Jaden Daniels get better? And he's like, I'm telling you, dude, he's like, everything's faster. He's seeing things even faster. Mm-hmm. He said, leadership wise, it's gone up. Like he's taking it up a notch on that front. Like he's talking more, he's more vocal. And that's a scary thought. Now, hopefully the McLaurin thing works itself out. The offensive line's better. He's excited about the corners. They've got some good young corners on their roster. So they've got a team. It was in the stinking championship game last year. So if Jaden Daniels takes that next step, and we'll see what happens with the Terry thing. Hopefully that thing gets worked out. I think that's kind of like we talk about the fun teams, who are the teams to pay attention to and be fun. That's a fun team, man.
DJ, I'm writing this thing that'll come out later today. Is the three teams that have challenged the Philadelphia Eagles. And I have the Washington Commanders right there. I feel like they not only are a better team than they were last year. You think about the upgrades, Deebo Samuel, Laramie Thompson coming in. You talked about the draft picks and what they brought in. But you got Jaden Daniels, who's entering year 2. And I know some people will make that sophomore slump. But, man, I just think this dude is an absolute superstar. Yeah. And I only see him getting better. And there's something about the Commanders and the Eagles where the Commanders are unafraid of the Eagles. And no, when you're division rivals, like you have that sense, like we know them, they know us. But to me, there's a confidence that the Commanders have when it comes to dealing with the Eagles. That's going to make them a tough out for the Eagles when they have to square off a couple times this year to settle who is going to be the team to beat in the NFC East.
So help me out on the McLaurin thing because, again, I've been on the move, so I don't know as much about that one to talk about it.
I mean, I can't understand it, but I do understand the rush.
Does he want crazy? Does he want like way above market? Like what is the issue here?
Well, I don't know what the issue would be, but I know he's over 30. Okay. Yeah. And so when we look at the market, the way the market is kind of split. So DK Metcalf, top of the market, he signed his deal, whatever it was. Like I think it put him at 30 something, but he was 28 years old.
Yeah.
Then you look at the over 30 guys that signed Devontae Adams and Mike Evans. They basically signed 2-year deals that put them right between 22 and 24 million.
Yeah.
Per. Well, if you're McLaurin and your numbers are better than DK and you and DK are in the same class, and even though on paper he's 28, you're 30, you're saying, well, why can't I get that deal? Why do I get to get the old man deal? Mm-hmm. So it's just that part of it. And I am not one that always leans towards the player, but I think this when it comes to the franchise, when you have a guy that is a face of the franchise type, someone who exhibits all the qualities that you talk about, hey, young guys, y'all need to look at Terry because he does it the right way, on time, work ethic, plays. Mm-hmm. Didn't matter what they had at quarterback. He shows up, shows out. The numbers speak for themselves. You just tend to just overpay to keep your guy just because he's been such a good player for you and he will continue to be a good player. So I don't know. It's just weird.
The challenge to me, just listen to it and factored in the age. look, we're all beholden to our experiences. That's gonna shape and form our opinions. I saw Keenan Allen, got older pretty quick. I saw Mike Williams, unfortunately, had to retire as didn't work out there. Tyler Lockett, who was playing at a very high level. Now we'll see where he is in his career. Like, there's been a decent number of examples of guys. I mean, Cooper Kupp was I know he got a little bit of money here.
Didn't age right. I get what you're saying.
But you know what I mean? Like, I don't know that you want to go extend yourself too far on that age.
So the funny thing, Mike Evans and Devontae Adams signed 2-year deals at over 30. I'm trying to figure out what DK. I think DK signed maybe a 5-year deal, but that might have been the way they just stretch out the money.
Get out of there before
stretch out the money. Yeah. So it's just a matter of how do you want to do it? How do you want to get out of there? How do you want to pay him? But at some point you have to pay him. But I do understand it. You want to be fiscally responsible. And there's a Deebo Samuel factor. Deebo is in the last year of his deal. You're going to have to deal with that. Or are you going to have 2 high-priced wideouts? Like, what is the structure of the team? But they just need to make sure that the locker room is okay with Terry. Because if you bring in, he's on the team now, but if you bring in an outsider, for instance, like in Deebo, and you pay him and you don't pay the other guy, it just makes people in the locker room just look a little sideways upstairs. So this is a big one for AP. I'm sure they'll get it figured out, but you just want to make sure, man, that chemistry is so delicate.
And that's to me the key part of that is maybe not so much the age, it's just his standing within the locker room. Like, he is that guy. So, you'd like to have him happy. Same thing we just said, ideally you're okay with overpaying a little bit on some of these things because of the person and the standing within the locker room. That was this week's Hot or Not segment, brought to you by Wasabi Hot Cloud Storage. Store more and do more with your data. Try them for free at wasabi.com. Buck, I'm tired. I'm gonna be honest with you, not a lot of sleep. Anything else you want to toss in here before I go take a nap?
No, I think you need to take a nap. Like that is tough. I give you credit for showing up, but I know that you've been positively impacted and influenced by your time with Jim Harbaugh. I would anticipate you being in the front yard later, walking backwards with the sled on your back, just kind of like trying to make sure we're moving, trying to keep the quads,
a lot of chains, a lot of poles, rope poles, tire flips. Yeah.
Trying to make sure we're getting that done.
I'll be honest with you. I had a day where we didn't have anything, no work, no responsibilities. There's nothing going on family wise. So I went to play golf, and I've tried to play like in the summer once a week and stuff. But we went, and the course we go to is 27 holes, and you kind of figure out which 2 nines you're playing. The guy was like, "Look, we're wide open today. You guys want to play all 27? Like, you're good to go." First time in my life I've played 27 holes of golf, Buck.
Ooh.
I don't know how these old guys do it. I don't know how these guys do it. Well, we were moving because there was nobody on, so we were just kind of moving around. But man, like my back, I was like, oh my gosh.
You talking about your back? I'm thinking about your ability to focus. That's a long day.
Like, no, you know what turns out? It turns out I'm not a good 18-hole golfer. The last 9's that's where I shine. I think that's when I'm fatigued, and then when I just have too tired to have swing thoughts. Like when you're too tired and just like, screw it, I'm just gonna stop thinking. I'm gonna line up over the ball and hit it. So the first 18, the last 9 was much better than my first 18. So I think that's what I gotta do. I gotta go to the golf course, play 9 before the golf round when nobody knows that you're even there. Get out there, play 9, and then just meet up with your group and go, okay, let's go play. Now I might need a chiropractor after the round. But I don't. Gosh, it is. I never thought of golf as like a demanding sport, but now when you watch these tournaments and if you're walking the course and you're playing 4 days in a row, like that's not nothing. Like that's you
gotta be on it. You gotta be able to. One, I do believe and Tiger did a lot to change it. I do believe fitness is a big part of it, because being able to lock in, being able to, as you talked about, like where your back and the way your stuff feels,
your posture,
when you get to day 4, talk about move like that Sunday to be able to finish it off. You need to be able to working out last. That's what we're talking about.
There you go. All right, I'm gonna go get a nap. I appreciate you guys hanging with us. We'll see you next time right here on Move the Sticks.